Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
You're listening to Roundtable. I'm Niu Honglin, joined by Steve and Yushan. Coming up soon, buying a coffee, getting a receipt, tossing it into a pocket. It feels routine. But in dozens of Chinese cities, that small slip of paper is being turned into a policy tool designed to stimulate spending and quietly reshape how taxes are collected. Want to learn about that magic? Don't go away. And for years, we assumed hangry was a failure of self-control, a personality flaw that showed up when blood sugar dropped. New research suggests something more unsettling. When we're hungry, our brains are temporarily operating in survival mode. What is your most memorable moment of hungry? Do share. But before that, around the world, governments struggle with the same problem: how to encourage consumption while closing tax loopholes in the informal economy. China's answer, for now, is surprising analog: the return of lottery receipts. So we're talking about lottery receipts returning because previously it happened already, but we'll talk about the previous story a bit later. Let's focus on today. What will happen, to be more precise, 2026?
Yeah, I'm so excited about this, by the way. So China is bringing back a lottery-style tax receipt program in about 50 cities all across the country. So what you do is that when you make a purchase of whatever product or experience, it can be a dining out experience in a restaurant, or staying at a hotel, or just shopping of whatever entertainment, traveling, sports, and household services, you name it, and you pay for something under your own name. When that requirement is met, you can ask for an official tax invoice called a 发票 in Chinese. So, Steve, next time you dine out, remember to ask for a 发票.
发票.
And
请给我发票.
Exactly. And that's how a receipt will be given to you. And it's also, in the meantime, at least in the back days, a lottery tickets. So there's a scratch-off prize area on that invoice that's covered in gray. You scratch that, and you can see, oh, thank you for shopping, or you received a 21, which was what I received.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Already?
like when I was in primary school.
I thought you meant like at lunchtime today.
Previous round.
Yeah, previous round. And as for the invoice, you might just win a prize coming in a monetary way. So this plan was laid out by the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Commerce, and the State Taxation Administration. And the idea is very simple: to boost consumer spending and crack down on tax evasion at the same time.
So in the past, you get your receipt. It's just any receipt from anywhere. There's a scratch. It's like a scratch and win ticket, kind of, but it's on the receipt that you receive. And then when you won your 20 yuan, how did that work? Did you cut that off the bottom of your receipt and then you have to spend that 20 yuan at the same business, or you can spend it anywhere? You could spend it anywhere you wanted to.
Actually, I think the receipt and the invoice are two different papers.
Oh.
The receipt was the receipt, and the invoice is what you asked for after you paid.
Oh.
And then, once you're given the invoice, there's a little gray brackets that's covered by a gray cover that you can scratch out with your nails. And after you see that you win a certain amount of money, in my case it's a 20, you just show it to the cashier in that restaurant. In my case, it was at the restaurant with my parents.
You show them right away and they give you cash.
And they gave me 21.
This is very good.
They also take the invoice away, by the way.
Well,
They
yes, of
collect
course.
them.
So, otherwise, you could reuse it again and again and again.
So that they can give
Yeah.
it to relevant department and get the money. So the money was not from them either. But at that time, I remembered it was 5 yuan, 10 yuan, 20 yuan, and maybe 50 yuan maximum. But for this round, well, that was just vaguely remembering that. It could be more than that. But for this round, the highest amount of money you can win would be 800 yuan, which is the threshold that you do not have to pay a surprise income tax, so that you can get the entire money.
That's tax-free 800 yuan.
Tax-free 800 yuan. So very nice feeling. And because nowadays here in China, many of the invoice are in the form of a online form. So you would scan the QR code that the invoice include to see whether or not you got the money, and the money can directly go into your WeChat wallet or something. So that is going to be the approach for this time. But let's talk about the previous time. So I think I get Yushan's excitement. When I was
Right.
a little girl, yeah, I had that feeling especially when it's a family dining time, because for every 100 yuan, if I remembered it correctly, 100 yuan, 50 yuan, and also 10, 20 yuan, you can scratch that little gray area. So a bunch of my cousins, we would go to the cashier, and because it's a big family dinner, or lunch, it was always more than 200 yuan, something like
Yeah.
that. So you got several of those, and
Yeah,
you do it several
Because
times.
the strategy would be, hey, everybody, let's divide the bill evenly so everybody gets an invoice. Everybody gets...
No.
No, you can't do that?
I think the rate of winning would be a bit different from, for example, the 50 yuan one and the 100 yuan one. So there's no real point doing that. But you can definitely divide it so that each kid would have a chance to scratch that invoice.
Whatever, forget them.
oh my gosh.
They're not paying the bill. So wait, I have another question. So the higher your bill, the better chance you have at a better prize, I wonder.
Because at that time, the invoice was given in different ways. But for this time, for the one we're talking about, 2026, it's one bill, one time to scratch, or maybe not scratch, to scan the code.
And to answer your question, Steve, the minimum qualifying amount, that's no lower than 100 yuan or about 14 US dollars. And also how good or how big is the odds of winning and the prizes on offer, that's all determined by local authorities. We mentioned earlier that there are about 50 cities. Each are running on their own local rules on how those invoice and prizes turn out.
I see.
Yeah.
So different types of policies in different places.
So back in the day, and I think one of the reasons for bringing this back is to encourage consumption. Was that the idea back then too? Was to encourage consumption, meaning, if you offer people a potential prize, then they're more likely to go out and spend.
Well, actually, back then, it was not exactly the same idea that was being used for invoice lotteries. That could all date back to the 1990s, by the way. And the idea was very simple but very strategic, that it was meant to reward people for asking for invoices. And in the meantime, tackle a major problem, which was the cash-heavy transactions among small businesses and private firms and the tax losses that came with them. So, yeah, like smaller business, you'd only pay for a meal's price, and they consider that low enough to not include tax within, and that was for people. So everybody become the supervisor or observer of that action by asking for an invoice.
So a lot of tax money was being missed out on then.
At least a part. And I think this is very interesting because in different countries, we have different strategy when it comes to collecting tax. For example, I think in many countries, instead of currently we're having a VAT, we'll explain that a bit later, but many countries would have sales tax, meaning that when you're paying your bill, you spend 100 yuan and you're paying for example, 109 yuan, because the 9 yuan was the tax that's collected by the shopper for the country. So the shopper or the shop owner would later on submit that amount of tax money to the government.
Right.
And here in China, it's a little bit different. Instead of asking for a sales tax from the consumers, what's happening is that they are collecting that amount of tax from the shop owners. And one very obvious perk is that a lot of small and medium shop owners here in China would get a tax-free threshold. So if you earn less than 100,000 yuan per month, you don't really have to pay that VAT, that kind of tax anymore. So it's your collective amount of revenue that would determine how much tax you pay. And with a sales tax, it's obviously hard to do that because you've already collected the money from the consumers. So that was why China would choose this way to collect tax. But this was not exactly the initial situation as well. Initially, instead of a VAT, which is a value-added tax, we also
which came in 2016, right?
Which came in 2016. What we had is a revenue tax, revenue kind of tax. So it only think about the foundation of the tax money you pay based on the revenue you gain every month, which means that if you have already purchased or if you don't deduct the cost of the kind of material ingredient that you bought, if you don't, you are paying for the amount of, let's say, the kind of material that you purchased, as well as the revenue or the added value part of your business at the same time. But the cost part has already paid its tax by the previous link or the upstream link of your business.
So in 2016, the VAT, the value added tax, that would have been a big moment, right? A big reform, because that would have replaced the business tax, and that would have kind of been the reason to phase out this reward system on the invoices, I guess.
By saying reward system, yes, we're talking about the lottery invoice, because initially at that time, the previous round of lottery invoice was to encourage consumers to ask for an invoice from the shop owner, so that
go on.
they can, the relevant government department would know how much money to tax.
Exactly. So the customers or the citizens were kind of like
supervisors,
another set of eyes,
yes.
like government employees almost, ensuring that those taxes were kept up to the way they were supposed to be.
Yes, but what's interesting about the VAT is that instead of paying the tax at the very last link of the business, we allow each and every link on the industrial line to pay tax, meaning that that line is traceable, meaning that if you bought 10 kilogram of pork and then you report to the relevant department that I only sold out 2 dishes of fried pork, apparently you're lying. So it's already traceable. The entire business chain is traceable, so that they don't really need that last link of supervisors anymore. But still, everyone's paying tax and it's really nice. And for this round, the main driver or the main reason is to encourage, or to, I don't even think encourage consumers to purchase is the right word, because now it's the end of the year, it's spring festival period, we're doing purchasing anyways.
Yeah.
And there are the current plan or the current campaign is called Happy Shopping 2026 Spring Festival.
Shopping sounds like consumption to me.
Yes, I'm saying that the Happy Shopping period is saying, we know that you're buying for the new year, and here are some incentives. Here are some more subsidies. You can exchange your old refrigerator with a new one with subsidy. You can go to different places to travel, and maybe the hotel receipt you got can be a kind of proof, so that you get a deduct, you get a small subsidy if you are watching a movie in the movie theater, and the movie ticket you got can be as a proof that you can get a little deduct in the taxi price. So every places in different provinces, the 50 cities that Yushan mentioned, are rolling out these kind of preferential policies. That's the Happy Shopping 2026 Spring Festival campaign.
See, I told you, if it wasn't for the fact that Honglin is already a successful broadcaster, she would have been a very successful economist.
No, this is not about broadcasting. If you're listening, I'll give you a little peek behind the curtain of Niu Honglin's personality. She loves taxes. For some reason, Yushan and I could leave the room right now, and I don't think she would notice.
I was staring at her like a blank
It
hamster
would be
or something.
It would be a 2-hour roundtable edition purely on taxes.
But anyhow, the officials did say that this time the new pilot for the new round of online invoice policy that's running, if not to be run in China right now, is meant to work from the demand side. That means to encourage people to spend, especially now, as you mentioned, it's the holiday season, and request the invoice just as a little prize after you spend. And I believe many businesses are borrowing this rule of the game too. In one of the sushi chains that's very popular among young people in China nowadays, they have something that's very similar, a mechanism that when you hit a certain amount of money after piling up your sushi plates, you can get a chance to play a lottery kind of a game and win a different level of prize. And then when you hit the second mark, you can play it again and maybe get a higher chance of getting a bigger prize. Something like that.
They want you to eat more.
I haven't been there yet, but according to Yushan, people around him and young people like that, they are really into things like that.
Is this for, sorry, I'm putting you on the spot. Is this for a limited time or is it back now?
You can just, well, that I'm not sure. And also, what I'm sure about is that because it's part of the entire, a bigger campaign to have people enjoying their purchasing period in Spring Festival 26 a bit more. So it will last for a period of time and also in these pilot cities more or less. And that is something that I would encourage you to try and enjoy for yourself.
Yeah, and speaking of the pilot cities, they were selected for good reasons because each province nominated one city that's with extra slots tied to spending power of that city. So provinces ranking in the top 12 nationwide for household consumption could recommend one additional city, and those in the top 3 could add 2 more. So that's the rule for them to select which city they'd like to do that pilot for trying out the invoice now. As a result, Guangdong, Jiangsu, and Zhejiang provinces, they secure the largest presence in this whole trial so far, and I'm very excited to see how they turn out and how people like it or
请给
not.
我发票
请给我发票. Good
请给我发
one.
票
Great.
Thank you.
So if you are living in China or traveling in China, you can try that too. It's a fun thing to do. It's a fun game to play. You're listening to Roundtable. Coming up next, let's discuss shared human experience, getting hangry. Stay tuned.
Looking for passion? How about fiery debate? Want to hear about current events in China from different perspectives? Then tune in to Roundtable, where East meets West and understanding is the goal.
This is Roundtable with me, Steve Hatherley, and Yushan. Before the show, we discussed the fact that I am deeply related to the topic because I get hangry all the time. When I'm hungry, I am easily angry, get angered and be poked to a state that I don't enjoy. I don't like myself.
Well, none of us want that, that's for sure. That's when we turn on the tax shows and try to make
Making
her
me
happy.
happy.
Again. Now, here's the deal. Hangry doesn't exist.
It exists in my life all the
It does
time.
not. Well, I'll tell you why you're wrong. So this is what research suggests, that hangry is actually a state of what they call frozen stress. And this is when your blood sugar drops, which is Niu Honglin's other favorite topic, blood sugar. When your blood sugar drops, your body doesn't just get annoyed. It enters into a physiological state of high alert. And that's what prompts this or mimics this freeze response. So your brain consumes about 20% of your body's total energy. That's a fun little fact. So a drop in glucose is treated like a survival threat to your brain.
I'm dying.
And the brain's emotional center, which is called the amygdala, that's when it takes over because of that threat. So in that state, that's when your brain loses the ability to regulate top-down emotions. Top-down emotions are things like awareness, patience, politeness, or empathy. And when you are, quote-unquote, hangry, these functions lose power, and the bottom-up, what they call bottom-up survival instincts, like irritability and aggression, they take the driver's seat. To sum that up, your brain requires a lot of energy. When your glucose levels drop, your brain goes into survival mode and you lose the ability to be nice.
I lose the ability to be nice correctly. That's definitely true. So in these cases, we like Steve has already mentioned and explained very clearly, it is a stress feeling instead of a it's kind of like your body is in a crisis. So how do we move away from that crisis on top of, eating, which is the simple solution?
Well, how can we unfreeze ourselves then? Well, first of all, you'd have to recognize what's happening inside your body. So you have to tell yourself, I'm not hangry. I am experiencing a frozen stress response due to low glucose in my body. And then you re-engage. What you're doing is you're teaching your brain to fight with each other. Then you get your brain back in the spot of, I'm going to be okay. I just need some complex carbohydrates or proteins that will give me a steady stream of glucose. Here's one of the main points of this whole thing, is that we associate the emotion of anger with hunger. And we assume that we feel angry because of that internal stress. But the research also showed this. If you don't have any negative external factor or force to influence your negative feelings, you will not feel angry when you're hungry. You will only feel sleepy.
So the anger is also real somehow.
No, but yes, it's real, but it comes from an outside source. Let me explain it like this. Okay, I'm hungry, so my blood sugar dropped in my body. My brain freaks out. My brain needs 20%, it takes so much energy, right? So it goes into panic mode. I'm in a frozen state here. Yushan decides to, tease me about my hair or something. Now, normally, it's an example. Normally, I wouldn't care. But because I'm in that frozen state of panic mode, I just explained it, my brain loses the ability of politeness and patience. So that comment is suddenly a trigger for me, and I get upset. Now, I think that means I'm hangry. Because I'm hungry, that's why I got angry at her. But if Yushan didn't say anything, if there were no external factor, I wouldn't feel any negative response, meaning there's no connection between being hungry and being angry. It doesn't come from the inside. It comes from an external force.
So next time you get angry, one, your blood sugar is low, instead of related to a personality flaw, you can still easily blame the person who is making you angry and saying you should know not to poke the bear when the bear is not eating a fish or something.
Have you ever heard that relationship advice? Don't have an important, serious or sensitive conversation with your partner when you're both hungry.
Yeah, true.
And this is the reason why. You're easily triggered and you'll blame. It's easier for us to blame our brain. We think, why am I angry right now? It's easier for us to blame the outside source than it is to recognize, my glucose levels are lower, so therefore I'm emotionally sensitive and I've lost my ability to be patient and polite. We don't think like that. We just blame the easiest thing, which is the person sitting next to us or whatever that thing is.
Yeah, when we're very hungry, there are only, in my case, it's only like 2 brain cells in my brain and they're fighting each other, so I can't think. And I get a lot easier to get road rage when I'm driving, especially.
That's the external trigger.
As long as there's no cars messing with me, I'm just driving fine,
And that's why I said, Niu Honglin, you are never hangry. Your brain is in panic mode, which probably triggers you. Which makes you hangry in the end. Well, isn't that ironic?
There's a lot of external factors around her.
And what I'm taking away here from today's roundtable, from the one who is getting hangry, I know it's not a thing, but it's a state that we face all the time, is that if you don't really have something like some food right in front of you, try to persuade yourself. And as long as you have heard this episode of Roundtable, you know the logic, you know the science behind it. It's easier for you to control that anger because now you know. And for those who have been listening, you know, do not give someone the reason to be hangry at you at certain points. And that brings us to the end of today's Roundtable. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's topics. Leave us a comment wherever you listen to your podcast, or send us an email to roundtablepodcast@qq.com. I'm Niu Honglin with Steve and Yushan. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Ready for super night. Here in Beijing, lights come on. New Year's beat is moving strong. Step by step, feel the sound. Happy smiles all around. Feel the rhythm, feel the force. Here it comes, the year of the horse. From London, cheers go wide. New Year joy we share with pride. Near or far, old or new, warm wishes sent to you. Here in Nairobi, hearts are bright. Hope is strong, the future